Don't erase it. Hello, children. And welcome to Clay Time with Mr. Barnes. Today we're going to learn about recycling clay. And I'm going to show you a method for recycling leather hard clay. Now, if you've got some clay that's like this, it's kind of soft, but it's not soft enough to use. What you can do is put it in a bag like this. Can you see this? Look inside. See that? All that leather hard clay. And we're gonna put it in a bucket like this. Okay? And we're gonna go to the sink. We're gonna go to the sink. We're gonna go to the sink. And we gotta go to this sink. We gotta go to this sink. Okay. We're gonna put a little bit of water, not too much, but the problem if I just leave that water, it's only gonna get the clay in the very bottom of the bag wet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill the rest of the bucket. I'm gonna fill the rest of the bucket up with water on the outside, and the pressure of the water on the outside is gonna squeeze all of the water inside the bag and cover all of the clay inside the bag. So, can you look at this? So look at the water inside. See how it's rising? Because it's being squeezed by the water on the outside. And eventually, look, it's gonna, maybe we'll let just a little bit more inside. I want to make sure I get all this clay covered. Okay, now I'm going to leave that for about a day. So tomorrow I'd come back and I'd dump out the water, and the clay that's inside there, if there's any excess water, you pour that as well. But all the clay should be soft again and ready to use, and you'll have to wedge it, but it should be workable again. The problem with this method is I only have so many buckets, and there's only so much leather hard clay that you can find. Maybe you have some, maybe you and your partner have some. You can do this method, okay? That's the end of the bucket method.
Yeah.
Hello, children. Welcome to Clay Time with Mr. Barnes. And we're doing a third kind of recycling today. So for this type of recycling, what you need to have is a container, can you see this? Of bone dry clay. It can't be leather hard, it can't be even a little bit damp, like a little bit gray, it's gotta be all the way white, okay? And all you're gonna do is take that container and fill it with water. All the way until the clay is pretty much submerged. Now, I showed you this before, but it's gonna take about 30 minutes, and that'll all melt down into slip. But you're gonna leave it overnight, okay? Just to be sure. Once you leave it overnight, you're gonna have something that looks like this. You'll pour off the extra water. I've got a little extra water there. You should pour that off. Wouldn't it be funny if this whole thing fell out and splashed all over you, camera woman? Oh, look, it's starting to slip. I'll stop. Okay, now this is the best method for recycling clay, but it's also the most finicky or tricky. And it takes the most babysitting, but it is the best way because it'll make your clay the most plastic because you're soaking all of that clay. So clay, the individual molecules of clay are little platelets. So you think of pieces of glass, and when they're dry, they're just kind of stuck to each other. But when you add water molecules separate them, and then they can slide on each other, and that's what makes clay plastic. So if all of the platelets of clay get water in between them, the more plastic your clay becomes. And this makes your clay, this method of recycling makes your clay the most plastic. So if you look here, what I have, so you would definitely have to work with a partner or two to do this. Somebody's got to bring in an old bed sheet. You got old sheets you're throwing out, you can bring them in, okay? I did this one earlier today, and I put slip in here, and then I set it outside on the cement, and it's still a little bit too wet, but it's probably dry enough that I can pull it off of here. You gotta watch for strings, okay? So this is too soft, but I can take that to the wedging board and I can wedge it and it'll probably be fine. So what you're gonna do, see, you could get a lot of clay this way, okay? I could fill up a lot of this towel. So I'm gonna do it like, it's halfway. Sort of right here. Okay, so I'm gonna pour out my slip. And then you'll squish it down as flat as you can get it. And then fold over the fabric and push the fabric onto the clay. And you want to try and make it as even a little pancake as you can. You don't want thin spots or thick spots. And you can already see that the fabric is wet, so it'll pull water and the water is able to evaporate fairly quickly while the clay and the slip stays in there. To make it go a little bit faster, what I'll do is I'll take this outside and I'll set it down on the cement outside. The cement will also pull more water out of there. And also being outside, the sun and wind will help with that evaporation. Now this is gonna take more than one class period to dry. So you would set it out during your class period, but you're in 5th. So you'd have to come back and check it at 6th. You do not wanna leave it overnight. If you leave it overnight, you're gonna come back tomorrow and it's gonna be bone dry again. And then you have to start the whole thing over again. So if you come back during 6th period and check it, then you can take, if it's not dry yet, still bring it inside, put it on your shelf somewhere, or a shelf, an empty shelf, and then you can take it back outside tomorrow when you get back to school. Now, if you want to come in first thing in the morning and take your thing outside and leave it out there all day, that's probably okay. I would check it at lunch. It's probably fine. If it's still not dry, leave it out until your class period, maybe the end of your class period or the end of the day. My point is, it's not like there's no specific time on how long it'll take this to dry out. It depends on how much water is in there. If you look, even if I pick it up from the table, it's already dropped a lot of water on the table. So this is a super efficient way, and once it's dry, you end up with clay that's really, really plastic, really nice, okay? Any questions? Thank you, children.